Well, it's been 7 days. That must mean it's time for a new episode of This Week in Film. I'm Nick Pinotto, your host, joined as always by Midwest Matt Lauer. What's up, Matt?
Not much. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Nick.
How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing all right. I saw a movie this week that you recommended again, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Wait, is this actually a film I actually recommended? Like I said, you should see this?
Yeah, we watched The Ritual.
Oh, that's awesome. You finally watched a movie I said you should watch. Boy, I hope you liked it.
I did. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Excellent.
Let's talk about it some more.
Sounds good to me.
So if you don't know, The Ritual is a movie. Well, you know what? What did you watch? Because I'd like to get into spoilers on mine, and if there's people who haven't seen The Ritual, they should. And I don't want to spoil anything for them.
Okay. I saw The Ritual a couple weeks ago. And in more recent times, specifically in the last week, I watched a movie called The Reef.
The Reef.
Yeah, it's a shark movie. And I guess in a similar vein, not too long ago, I also watched a movie called The Jungle with Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, okay.
And I mention them both now, even though that's been a while, because they sort of have some stuff in common.
The Reef and The Jungle.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, they have stuff in common because the title is Some Form of Nature.
It starts with the,
some
and then there's a
habitat.
noun.
That's it. But should we have any extra time at the end, I also watched a movie called Before I Wake, which is a Netflix movie. It's a horror movie.
Okay.
So anyway, what would you like to hear about?
Let's go with The Jungle, the Daniel Radcliffe, The Jungle.
Okay, so this will be kind of a brief one since it has been a little while since I've seen it. But the movie The Jungle is a movie about three friends and a guy they sort of pick up as their guide in. Well, now I'm forgetting what country it is. It's in South America.
Uh-huh.
And so the person, this is all based on a true story. So I guess it's not just the character that Daniel Radcliffe plays, but like the guy.
Okay.
He is traveling with one friend who's a little bit, I guess, made to look like he's a little bit on the uptight side, a little bit more, type A personality.
You said
guy.
This is Daniel Radcliffe's friend?
Yeah. And the two of them are, and Daniel Radcliffe's just kind of young adult, kind of, I don't know, plucky, maybe is the word.
Okay.
And he's excited to travel, goes with his friend, and then they run across one of that guy's friends in this country, and he decides to join them. And this guy is a little bit more, it's not quite too extreme, but let's say he's the jock of the group.
Okay.
And he's a little more worldly, like he's had a lot more, you get the sense that he's had a little bit more practice with like survivalist kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so the three of them are like, hey, let's stay in this country. Let's stay a little bit longer. Let's go on a hike if we can find someone for a couple days. And they find this guy. He's like, oh yeah, I can show you through the jungle. And once they go out, the guy who's the guide, you start to see that he's like not exactly this great friendly guide personality. I mean, it doesn't go like full horror movie. It doesn't turn into like he's Jason or anything like that.
Okay.
But he's got some sort of weird issues. He's kind of confrontational. He and the jock aren't getting along, and the jock and the kind of nerdy guy are getting into a lot of like, there's like a lot of tension between the two of them because the tougher guy just kind of wants to plow ahead, and the kind of nerdy guy, he ends up injuring himself, and he's dragging things down a bit. And having seen an episode of the show I Shouldn't Be Alive that was about these people. Which is a survival show where people survive crazy things.
Sure.
I was recalling that episode as I was watching the movie, and everything was pretty on point with what the guy had, explained there. The Daniel Radcliffe guy had explained there. So I'm like, wow, this is pretty on point with all these events. So it's pretty grounded.
Oh, so this is like a famous story.
Yeah. I don't know if it's something that most people know, but it's this one guy in particular has kind of made a livelihood in a way out of explaining all this stuff that happened. And so from there, some of them sort of get separated in some different ways, and you kind of follow the Daniel Radcliffe guy. And the movie itself is, I think, very well done with tone. I think Daniel Radcliffe does a really good job. It's not something you want to watch if you're looking for a light and fluffy movie. It's pretty heavy, like if you recall the movie Curve that you were talking about last week where the girl's trapped in the car.
Yeah.
That was kind of this is the easy version of needing to survive. This one's the hard version.
Okay.
But I would solidly recommend that.
Okay, great. It's called The Jungle.
It is called The Jungle.
All right. Well, and then tell me about the other movie you watched. You watched The Reef. Let's hear about that too.
Yeah, so in a similar vein, now I don't think The Reef is actually based on a true story, but it reminds me also of other episodes I've seen of that show, I Shouldn't Be Alive. And by the way, Nick,
yes,
listeners, whoever, the show I Shouldn't Be Alive, check it out. It's really good. So this movie, though, it follows around 4 people, and they have kind of a guide too, like the boat guide, and they're going to go swimming around. And when I started the movie...
I guess this movie takes place like on an island or something?
Well, it's around a reef. So it's mostly like straight up in the water.
Okay.
Because they're on a boat and then the boat capsizes. And then they're trying to get to an island, actually, and there's a shark.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about this is I was looking for something to watch last night. I got home a little too late to be able to get from here to the movie theater and see Solo. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I thought about doing it. I was like, okay, I could tolerate that movie tonight. And then I realized it was already like 10:15 and the last show was at 10. But anyway, I was watching some reviews and stuff, and someone mentioned kind of in passing that The Reef was a really good movie. So I turned it on, and a few minutes in, I went, man, this is kind of familiar. And then a few minutes after that, I was like, I think I may have seen this before. So I can tell you, it's not exactly a memorable movie. But anyhow, so this guy, his friend, the friend's girlfriend, and the friend's sister are all going boating.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow between the main guy and this guy's sister, there's some sort of relationship that it seems like her brother does not know about at all. Like there's this weird kind of, as they get introduced to each other, there's this weird tension, and then it's all over the place. Like they hate each other one minute, they're really nice to each other the next minute. And it doesn't just seem like, it seems like bad writing. Like It's just so erratic. But I guess it's sort of effective in saying, hey, there's some tension here. But I got me wondering, like, do we need that in these sorts of movies? I'm like, why can't we just have a movie? Because I'm pretty sure that if I could see into the experience of a bunch of strangers going through a crazy survival experience, it would be compelling.
Right.
But instead of just writing that, every movie's got to, like, every survival movie's got to have, like, an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend or something like that.
The built-in conflict of being trapped at sea isn't enough. You need to have like interpersonal dilemmas. That
Right. I'd like to get the writer of what's that movie you recommended about where Robert Redford's on a boat.
All is lost.
Yeah, we need to get that guy, the guy that wrote that book or that movie,
Yeah.
and get him on the set of every other, or get him in the writer's room of every other survival movie.
Well, that's the problem that I have with shows like The Walking Dead, at least the first 2 seasons of it, where each character represents a different stereotype, and they have to live up to it entirely.
Well, and then the show is more about their interactions than it is about dealing with zombies.
Yeah. Like, I don't care about the interpersonal problems of these people. I care about them trying to survive in the world. It's like if you were going to make a movie about people stuck in an elevator, there'd be a racist, a black person, a Japanese person, and then an average person who likes everybody. And instead of them trying to learn how to survive in the elevator, it'd be about the racist person trying to overcome his inner demons in order to get along with the people he works with on the elevator.
And there'd be an ex-boyfriend and an ex-girlfriend. They would have to throw that in.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's not like I totally mind that all the time. It just seems like people don't have enough faith in being able to write something like All Is Lost to let the scenario play out as dramatically as it already would.
But I guess that's like a major issue, because like not a lot of people saw All Is Lost, which is a shame because it's excellent. I was thinking about this yesterday actually on my way home from work, was the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
It's just him trying to survive on the island, and people complained that there's no talking during the movie. That was like a major complaint that people have about it, is that he doesn't talk to anybody for a while, and then he starts talking to Wilson. And I'm like, well, who's he supposed to talk to? There's no one there. You know, like it's as if it's as if in order to have a movie, there has to be that built-in dilemma between people in order for the masses to really enjoy it.
Well, that must be why Castaway also includes about an hour of stuff I don't want to see. Just him interacting with other people. They just threw that in so everyone could go, oh, good, there's dialogue.
Yeah.
But so with the Reef, there are some things in it that like it's kind of strange. Like they kind of like the weird tension. There are a couple other things that kind of take you out of it. Like there's really crappy music. The one of the guys, the friend who has a sister, looks kind of like a weird version of a young Bill Murray. And that took me out of it a lot. I kept going like, I just can't get over the fact that this guy looks like a distorted Bill Murray. The ex-girlfriend's pretty cute, but for some reason it looks like she's wearing dentures. That distracted me a lot. And then I found myself thinking a lot, maybe along the lines of the relationship stuff too. I had enough time to sit there and just be like, oh, I'm going to ponder this for a while. It must suck to be an actor on a show or a movie or maybe even a scene where there's a lot of water. Like, that must be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, just be sitting there in water all day long.
Yeah, always wet.
Yeah.
And I bet the water's, the water's not warm most of the time. Like, you got to sit in cold water.
Yeah, I don't even know if one's worse than the other. I guess cold probably would be worse.
I hate cold water, so that would be like my own personal hell.
Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, I hope those people get paid more for doing that. Now, all that stuff said, I would actually recommend The Reef. I don't think it's a bad time. If you're looking for a shark movie, it's decent. It's probably better than it's definitely better than The Shallows.
Oh, that's what I was just about to ask, was if you'd seen that too.
Yes.
I haven't seen either, and The Shallows was supposed to be okay.
I did not find it to be okay.
Okay.
It was interesting because there are some weird things that happen. Like, a shark eats a man, and then I'm pretty sure the shark sets the body up as like a crime scene because there's no other way that things end up where they would. without some manipulation by the shark. But check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's on my list of hopefuls to watch one day.
That's a bad one. You and Joe could have a good time ripping that one apart.
Okay.
But I would recommend this one. It's better than The Shallows. It's probably I just saw 47 meters down.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Back. It was pretty flat, pretty like not. There aren't really many highs or lows.
Okay.
But actually, I would say it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. Let me put it that way. And I think it's still better than The Shallows. So yeah. So maybe see that after The Reef if you're on a shark kick.
Okay.
Or just watch Jaws again for the millionth time because you can never go wrong that way.
Jaws is never bad.
Never. Except
in the sequels. The sequels, it's bad, but Jaws, the first one, is pretty good.
It's awesome, the first one. Jaws 2 is not great, but compared to the other sequels, it's like Oscar-worthy.
Anyway, is that all you have to say about The Reef?
Yep, that wraps up Shark Corner.
Okay. Well, then that brings us to the movie that both of us have seen, so it means we're going to get into spoilers about it, but it's a Netflix movie. I think it's a Netflix movie. I
think so, too. It is.
Called The Ritual. The movie poster that I found for it says in cinemas at a certain date or whatever, so that kind of threw me off a little bit, but maybe they show Netflix movies in theaters in Europe.
Or maybe more independent movies get sort of purchased by Netflix some way.
That's a good point too. So anyway, briefly without spoiling it, The Ritual is about these 5 guys are planning like a guy's vacation. They're like 35-year-old guys. They're planning a guy's vacation, and something terrible happens to one of their friends. Which sets up I'm already all over the place. Let me start over.
You can do that.
The Ritual is about 4 people who are on a hiking trip in Norway or Sweden, one of those places. And they're there to pay their respects to like one of their friends who was brutally murdered in front of them. And one of them gets hurt, so they have to try to take a shortcut through the woods. And that's all I'm going to say before I get into spoilers. So if you wanted to check it out, I would recommend watching it. But
and I second that.
Yeah,
definitely check it out.
Yeah, so it starts off as about a movie about like more of a, I want to say a coming of age story, but the guys are all of age already. And then it turns into a horror movie. So go ahead and check out The Ritual. Now we're going to get into spoilers. Matt, what have you to say of The Ritual?
Well, like you mentioned, the friend gets murdered in front of the one guy, the who I guess is the main character for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And that was rough.
It was rough. That was brutal to watch. Because I totally felt myself being in the same place with that guy.
Yeah. He sort of, I guess you could say he cowers while his friend's getting killed.
Yeah.
But it's a well acted moment.
Yeah.
You can kind of you can sit back and think about it a bit, and I think it makes you think about it. I think it's a good enough scene that you sit and go like, well, what would I do there?
Right.
And on one hand, you go like, well, maybe adrenaline would kick in, and I would jump in and do something.
Right.
But the way it's acted out, you go like, oh, I could see myself doing that too.
Or I could just stand to the side and wait. Because there's no way he expects his friend to get cracked, his skull cracked open.
Like cut open with a machete. So I thought that was like, a pretty good tone to set, this isn't gonna like hold back.
Right.
But and if you think about where the movie ends up with all this weird mystical stuff going on, it doesn't at all hint of that.
Right.
And having seen the movie, I'm like, man, in that moment, I would not realize that that's the shift this movie's gonna take.
Yeah.
But it works. It's not like you don't walk away going like, man, that was like two completely different movies that they didn't know how to connect. It actually flows together pretty well.
It's two movies that they did know what to do with.
Yeah.
It seems like they didn't know they didn't know what to do with their drama movie, and they didn't know how to end their drama movie, but they didn't know how to start their horror movie. So they just combined the two.
Maybe they were in the pitch room.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, so we got this movie about a guy whose friend gets murdered, and the people at the desk are like, yeah, well, the stuff after that doesn't sound very exciting. Like, well, okay, well, if you don't want that one, I got this movie about these guys who get killed by this weird tree deer monster.
Right.
and then they were like, huh. You know, if we can pay you once for both of these films.
Yeah. I got an idea about hillbillies. It's been done. No. Nordic hillbillies.
You know, this is a little bit of a tangent, but have you seen the movie Trollhunter yet?
No, I haven't. No, I forgot you mentioned
put that at the very top of your list.
Trollhunter, okay.
Yeah, if you liked this, you will like that.
Okay, is it bad or is it good?
It's amazingly good.
Okay.
It's surprisingly good.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
You do. So anyway, back to the ritual.
The ritual. So anyway, after the friend is murdered, they go on this trip to Norway, to do like this 3 or 4 day hike, and while they're on the walk, one of the 4 guys twists his knee, and they have to take a shortcut through the woods. Big mistake. and it's funny because the one guy mentions if talks about the shortcut, he says. The one guy with the map says, we can cut through the woods using the compass and the map. We'll be able to figure out where we're going. And the other guy goes, if there was an easier way to get through the hike, it would just be called the way. I thought that was
good point,
I thought it was a clever line. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Right
that
there.
is true. Yeah.
And so they, against better judgment, decide to go through the woods. And while they're walking through the woods, strange things start happening to them.
They run across, was it a bear?
I think it was an elk.
Strung up in a tree? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they come across this elk that's been ritually sacrificed in this tree. It's up in the air, and its guts are dropped below it, and it's all splayed out. It's pretty graphic and awesome.
Yeah, awesome indeed. And hitting you again with sort of this tone. It's like this movie's not going to hold back. What did you think of the guys? Because I found the one with the leg issue. I mean, I probably experienced him the way you're supposed to. That he's really annoying. Yeah,
I found that he was annoying, but like we were talking about before, how people put different people with different personalities together, and then they're all they are is the personality. I think in this movie they're four individuals, each with their own characters, but they aren't stereotype guys. They aren't like the bald guy or the big guy with the glasses isn't like a nerd. All of the character development stuff comes naturally. It's not like the character development that we experience isn't based on what they look like or who they are. Like the fat guy with the glasses is he holds a grudge against the main guy because of what happened to their friend in the store, but he doesn't say it right away. It comes out later in the movie.
Yeah. That thread comes back a lot because half of the way the way the monster's messing with them is
right.
Or I guess it's the monster and these people. I'm not quite sure. The collective energy of this weird evil type thing is kind of getting in their head. It's not all just it's going to attack you.
Yeah.
They're actually the first night. I kind of forgot about it. The first night, they're staying in a cabin.
Yeah, they break into that house in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, and so the main character wakes up with injuries to his chest. The one guy's peed on himself.
Yeah.
One of the dudes kind of stood near this like wicker man deer thing, and
Yeah, what the hell is up with that? That's just a scary image. He's all naked and praying in front of it.
well, and that's one thing this movie's got. It's got really good imagery.
Yeah, that is true. Like, and the movie doesn't take time to try to explain it either. It's just
it doesn't do too much of the like. And now I'm gonna sit down and tell you my evil plot.
right. Exactly. It's just kind of like these guys get wrapped up in something that's been going on for hundreds of years, and they've got no choice but to go through it.
Yeah, it keeps it in their perspective. There's not a moment where you're like with the monster and the people going like, oh well, we know everything that's going on here.
Yeah. At the end in like the third act or whatever, at some point while they're lost in the woods, by the way, they get lost in the woods. If that wasn't clear of what was going to happen, but they get lost in the woods. They find this old tent, and inside the tent is the identification of this girl who I guess has been missing for years. And then later in the movie, you come across that girl is with the Nordic hillbillies, and they don't even address it. He doesn't say, "Hey, you're that girl. We found your stuff." Like, you're just supposed to realize that, oh, it's this girl that was trapped from before.
Yeah, they don't point it out, because I actually didn't even realize that. I didn't make the connection.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think Jill pointed it out to me. Because she's like, I guess, the newest member of their group. Now, here's something that Jill and I have been trying to figure out. We looked all over the internet for it. At the end of the movie, when the guy goes to the upstairs room with the chanting mummies, do you remember that?
Where they were kind of like, they were already sort of half dying.
They were like dead zombies, but their mouths were moving. Not zombies, but mummies. What was that all about?
I have no idea.
What the hell was happening there?
I don't know, and they don't explain it,
right?
And I don't mind. I don't really want them to explain it.
I need an explanation on what was going on with the mummies, because one of them's mouth was moving as they were making the chanting noises, and then he just lights them on fire and leaves.
I did like that though. It's like I like that you're sitting there going like, what the heck is going on?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, what the heck is going on? And then he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna set this place on fire and go. And I'm like, yeah, good approach. Just burn it down.
Oh, and then he goes down the steps, and then the crazy old lady's there, and he just punches her in the face.
Oh yeah, punches her.
That was great.
It was great.
Another nice moment is that the guy, like at one point, like they're getting picked off one by one. The four of them together are all getting picked off one by one by the monster. And I thought a real nice moment was like, even though they've got all this conflict between them now, they're still on the same team of like, we have to get out of this woods together. Like the guy with the busted leg and the knee guy, he's like, I'm not going to watch all of you die in front of me. And they do. They all die in front of him. Like, imagine if all of your good friends from college over a weekend were like slowly eliminated in front of you one by one. It'd be terrible.
It'd be a pretty bad weekend.
Yeah.
Well, and like the arguing between the people. One thing I think this movie, aside from the imagery, just like does really well, is the balance of things. Like there's arguing, but it's not like Blair Witch, where they're just all they're doing is cursing at each other about a map for like 40 minutes.
Right.
Like, just die already.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the creature, like it doesn't. Your way of finding out what this thing looks like is done at a perfect pace. You kind of don't see it at all. You see what it's done. Yeah. Then you hear it and you see friends like disappear or get flung through the air.
Right.
And then you see bits of it and you're like, oh man, that's like seeing the Tyrannosaurus's eye in Jurassic Park.
Right.
And then
then
when you do finally see it, oh, thank you.
Matt is wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt.
I have like 3 of the same shirt. And then when you do finally see it, it lives up to what you've been seeing bits of. You know, sometimes when there's finally the reveal and you're like, oh, now this thing's not scary anymore.
Yeah.
Here you finally see it and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the monster was so absurd looking that it. I don't want to say absurd because it was effectively scary as a monster.
But it is absurd. You're right with that too.
It's got like 8 different limbs. It's got like weird, scary eyes. It's got human hands.
Yeah, it's like a giant elk with a human growing out of it, with an elk's head back on top.
Yeah,
like a skull.
That's a pretty good description. Yeah. And then the fact that the monster's not omnipotent too, like the guy finds that axe and like hits the monster with the axe, and the monster reacts to it and everything. I thought that was pretty good too. Like the monster, the hillbillies call the monster their god, and I guess it goes back to Nordic stuff, which means that this movie exists in the Marvel universe because Thor could probably show up to save them. We should add that the director is David Bruckner, who directed that movie VHS from a couple years ago that I never saw.
It's all right.
He also did The Signal, which I feel like I saw, but I don't remember it.
I'm not familiar with that one.
No, go ahead.
Well, what are your feelings on so throughout the movie, this monster or whatever is getting in their heads and sort of giving different members of the group kind of flashbacks to things or kind of bring stuff to their mind that is sort of their personal weakness. And for the main character, it's, you know, the murder of his friend and like what he's dealing with there.
Yeah.
How did that work for you?
I thought that was very effective because you weren't able to know if what was real and what wasn't real. But you were confused along with the characters. For instance, the one character, he keeps dreaming that he's inside that convenience store, and he keeps seeing the body of his friend on the ground. And at one point, the body of the friend lifts its head up and calls him a coward. And so, like, you know that throughout the movie, at some point, this guy's courage is going to be tested. You know, like just from a character development point of view, he's going to have to show that he isn't a coward, or if he is. And when he's tied up at the end, when they're taking the guy with the busted knee to the sacrifice point, like he shows him doing everything he can to try to save his friend, but he still is unable. Even if he did everything he could, he still wouldn't have been able to save his friend, which is, I think, analogous to what would happen if he was in the convenience store and he tried to help his friend.
Yeah. I mean, I think the overlap is a lot of, you know, he's working through like what remains within him, the conflict.
You know, like sometimes no matter what you do, you still can't save the day. Like no matter what you do, you're still going to fail. Because nothing was going to stop that monster from getting the guy with the bad knee.
Right. Yeah, and when it comes to that sort of idea, this is another one of these things that I think this movie did well. It's kind of blending in something different without taking you out of the rest of the movie. So like when he's having those flashbacks to the convenience store, there was a moment each time where I was like, oh, I don't want to see the convenience store. We're in the woods.
Right.
But you know, his experience that he has, I'm like, okay, but this works. You know, this is, it still fits with the vibe that's here of it being a real creature and real people doing things, but also being really sort of paranormal and mystical and in his head.
Yeah. And I also like that the other characters all had their own hallucinations, but we only ever see the main character's hallucinations.
We see a little bit with the chubby dude.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because
his wife,
the monster, like gets in his head.
Yeah,
that's what I assume was happening. Is the monster was getting in his head and making him see what he wanted to see, or it kind of seemed like the monster was feeding off of that.
You know, and I think that actually not only does it work better in this movie than things like it do in other movies, I think here it also makes it a little bit more effective that when the final or the main character stands up to the monster, that, if it were a different movie and they were like, all you need to do is not be afraid of it, it would be dumb.
Right.
But here it's been in their head, so since it's been a bit of an internal struggle,
right,
when he stands up to the monster and the monster sort of disempowered by that a bit, it makes more sense. Because it's like they have been fighting some of this battle kind of internally within the guy.
Right. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And then the other thing is that or another thing I wanted to mention is that they stay in that that creepy ass cabin that first night. They're in the woods. I don't think that's what sets everything off. I think the minute they went into the woods, they were all goners.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't that they stayed in the house and because they disrespected the house, and I was like, oh, maybe this is what sets the monster off. Because once they leave the house and the next day and they start walking around, I thought for sure that when they came around that last corner, they were going to be back at the same house. And that was the movie we were going to get, is that they're like trapped in this one part of the woods. Yeah. And it's not like the monster is the entire woods. Which is why when the guy at spoilers again for the guy at the very end, when the guy gets out of the woods, the monster lets him go.
And you think that's like that's the end of that realm?
Yeah.
Like he's out of that territory, so he's safe. I think you're probably right. And I think that even though the house is where things really get funky, I think it's kind of what you're saying fits with what I remember in terms of the atmosphere. Yeah. Where you're like, yeah, something doesn't feel right here anyway.
No, well, when the guy goes upstairs, I love it when they go upstairs and they see that nasty thing, that weird ass wicker moose or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And they all react the way you're supposed to, which is, what the hell is that thing?
Right.
And then they make jokes where they're like, you can go upstairs and sleep with the thing, like you can go up there, and they're like, I am not going up there again. Like the movie had like a realistic kind of edge where people acted the way you would expect yourself to act in that kind of situation.
With one exception.
Which is,
because I would not be in that house.
Right, yeah. You got a perfectly good tent. Get out of the damn house.
I'm pretty sure that once I saw that house in the woods,
mm-hmm.
and maybe this is me assuming that I knew I was in a horror movie too. I don't know, but I wouldn't sleep. I don't think I'd even be able to sleep.
So in a new tradition of what we've been doing, with the show, I went to the trivia page on the IMDb for this movie, and I figured we could go over a few of the trivial things.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear anything you got.
So the first one is the original tagline for the movie is called "They Should Have Gone to Vegas," which is
true, but probably not a fitting tagline. That makes the movie sound a little cheesier than it is.
The sign the hikers see on the trees near the cabin is the last rune of the Futhark. It's an ancient Germanic symbol called Odal, and the O means property. So I guess that's what they see on the trees. It means property.
Huh.
Oh, and it's based on a book.
Right,
It's based on a book.
Oh.
So maybe
I might be willing to read that.
I think I might be willing to read that too, just to figure out what was going on with the mummies. They've got to explain the mummies in the book.
Well, maybe with the something you said kind of reminded me that the people who are there, like the girl who talks to him, she says, if you join us, then you will live forever.
Right.
So maybe that's not literal forever, maybe, or maybe they could be in mummy state for the rest of time.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's what's going on. Is the upstairs is where their souls are trapped or something. Yeah.
Or like once they've aged to a certain point, they just go up there and power the rituals with all their chanting and stuff.
The next little bit of trivia that's worth mentioning is the way the monster hangs its victims in the culturists' village mirrors a part of Asatru mythology. Jesus Christ. I'm not reading this one. That's annoying. In the final act of the movie, the cultists can be heard chanting the word blote. This refers to a ritual practice of offering food and alcoholic beverages and animal sacrifices to the gods whose favor they sought. The practice did not include ritual sacrifice of humans, and 32 out of 33 people found that interesting.
I was expecting something more along the lines of the main character is Brian Reynolds' cousin.
Though not shown in the film, the small witch, which I guess is the old lady, is revealed to have hooves instead of feet, which is why her loud footsteps are heard throughout the house.
Oh.
Which is kind of interesting.
I wonder why they didn't want to show that.
Let's see. The writing on the trees is mostly modern Wicca script, but they do not form actual words or warning. So it's just gibberish that's written on the trees, except for the one that says property. And that's basically the trivia for this movie. Actors, the guy who played Luke and the guy who played Dom are both in the Alien franchise. One was in Prometheus and the other one was in Alien versus Predator.
Huh.
And it's based on a novel and was produced by Andy Serkis.
I didn't even know he was a producer.
I didn't either.
Do you still hate Andy Serkis?
I don't think I ever did.
Oh, you did.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a while where you're like, God, I hate Andy Serkis. And I was like...
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. I do think he was obnoxious the way he talks about his involvement in the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah?
But no, I no longer dislike Andy Serkis. I think he's actually pretty great.
I thought, I can't say I liked him, but I thought he did an interesting performance, like one that was enough to make me really not like the guy in Black Panther.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this guy's just so scuzzy. And when did Andy Serkis get so buff?
You never saw Age of Ultron, right?
No.
You should watch it. It's not that bad. But he's got
that's a strong selling point. It's not too terrible.
Andy Serkis plays the same character in Age of Ultron. That's where they introduce him. And there's this great moment where Ultron is talking to Andy Serkis's character Claw, and he's like, "And you humans are so fragile," and he rips his arm off on accident, which is why Andy Serkis has that crazy gun arm.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't
you should watch it. You should watch it. It's fine. It's fine.
That's 2.5 hours of my life I can't get back. I'm not doing it.
Okay.
I'll go see Solo. I'll give in on that one.
I'd rather you watch Age of Ultron than Solo.
I wouldn't.
Oh, okay. All right, so we have some time now. I guess we're done talking about the ritual, unless you had anything else to add.
Well, what'd you think about the acting? Since we're just talking about the actors.
The acting I thought was outstanding. At no point did I feel like I was watching a movie, if that makes sense. Like I never felt like in a horror movie, like when you're watching a typical horror movie, you can tell the actors are acting in a horror movie. Whereas in this one, really that moment when their friend is killed really grounds the moment in this dark reality that is difficult to get out of. Like there are like a few lighthearted moments, but for the most part, the movie's really, I don't want to say dark because that's too cliche, but the movie is really grounded in that, in the, like you feel, what am I trying to say is that the main character guy, like you really feel for him because he knows that his friends think less of him for how he reacted during the thing, but what could he have done? He couldn't do anything except maybe get his own self killed trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the tone really stays. It does immerse you in that way. And thinking back, even the moments where I'm like, God, this guy's annoying me, or that guy's getting on my nerves, or like, if they're having an argument and someone just says the same thing like 5 times, it doesn't get Blair Witchy where I'm like, man, they couldn't come up with other lines. It's just like, oh no, these are just the characters being annoying or frustrating or whatever. Kind of like Andy Serkis, where I was saying like, I don't like the guy, but it was a really good performance, know. And these performances, I think, were very effective. There's
one moment when they're doing their little sacrifice for their friend, where they each take a shot of like whatever liquor that they brought, and then the one guy turns it over to like pour one out for his friends, and it's pouring out of a little flask. And it seems like it's pouring for forever. And there's like a brief moment where one of the guys looks over at him and is like, "Is that thing seriously still pouring?" but it's like, it's a real somber moment. But like within that somber moment, there's like this little bit of a lightheartedness where these guys are all friends, and that even though they're saying goodbye to their one friend, it's still a little funny moment that they would probably talk about later if they weren't all being murdered.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess
that's The Ritual. Great conversation. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah. And then you're saying Trollhunters is what I should watch next? Trollhunter. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember whether or not it's in English. Mm-hmm. I want to say it is, but I guess that might just mean that it's, you got to read, but it doesn't get in the way at all.
That's fine.
But it's worth watching. That's true. You can do that.
It's a skill I picked up along the way.
So, are we going to do a round of movie versus movie?
A round of Batman versus movie, Dawn of Movie?
Yeah, why not?
All right. What do you got?
Tremors.
Oh, there's a movie that I saw, or maybe I just read about it recently, where they talk about Tremors.
Well, I think what they're like now, they're doing. Are they rebooting Tremors?
I think they are. I think they're making another TV show. Maybe that's what I saw about it. Tremors. What could we put up against Tremors? That's another good horror movie. Tremors is excellent.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good comedy too.
Yeah.
Good luck next movie we come up with.
Let's see.
How about I feel like we've mentioned the name of Deep Blue Sea a bunch of times. Have we ever put it up against anything?
I don't think so.
How about Tremors and Deep Blue Sea?
Oh man, that's not even close, because I've only seen Deep Blue Sea like 2 or 3 times, and I've seen Tremors at least 10.
Okay, well, if you got another one,
I'm the worst. I'm the worst at trying to come up with stuff. So I'm glad you said Deep Blue Sea.
All right, so Tremors versus Deep Blue Sea. We already know who's gonna win the battle,
right?
But
that's not. If we knew who was gonna win, we wouldn't play the game.
Yeah, maybe there will be a surprise upset.
Yeah,
and Deep Blue Sea will come away victorious.
Yeah. Let's see. So Tremors is a monster movie. So is Deep Blue Sea.
That is true. So what's the basics? What are the basics of Tremors?
Basics of Tremors are, it's a slow podunk town down in the Southwest, and people start mysteriously dying because these giant worm monsters are attacking them.
Yeah, and they're eating them from the ground, and they are finding them by sensing their vibrations.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? If I had seen A Quiet Place, maybe that would be a good thing to go against. Because it's basically the same idea. Maybe that's what I remember is you talking about A Quiet Place. I think you may have compared it to Tremors while we were watching it.
Maybe. Yeah, that would be a good one to go up against it. Something tells me Tremors would still win, but
Tremors also has Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge Kevin Bacon fan, but he's winning me over the course of decades.
Right.
But he's great in Tremors. He's paired with whoever plays the other guy, and they
isn't that Fred Ward?
Yeah, yeah, and they've got a really good sort of like, you can believe that the two of them have been working together, hanging out for a long time.
And I think in whatever new Tremors thing they're doing, they're bringing Kevin Bacon and that guy back.
Oh, wow. Well,
Right.
I hope it's not a TV show then. I hope it's actually a movie, because I won't watch a Tremors TV show, but I will watch a movie.
So what are the basics about Deep Blue Sea?
You got a bunch of people on some sort of underwater, like, it's almost like an underwater space station, except it's not space.
A big underwater science lab.
What?
A big underwater science lab. Something terrible is happening. Right now, Matt is trying to figure out what's wrong with his phone.
Yeah, it was doing that static thing. Okay. Nope, still doing it.
I don't know. He's making a smiley face, but also gesticulating wildly.
Okay.
Nope, he's having issues. I'm gonna call him back. Let's do that. Listeners, I'm pressing the button to call Matt. That's the sound of the telephone, the iPad ringing.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
This is much more pleasant without deafening static in my ears.
I'm doing a FaceTime audio call right now. I wonder, I think the audio quality is better on the audio call than when we were doing the video call.
Oh, well then we should, I guess, just stick with audio from now on.
Well, then I'll miss your smiling face. I
know, and I'll miss yours. I don't know, this just happened the last, 2 times?
I think it was the last time we did the video too. It must after a while some sort of static must build up or whatever.
But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know why it would happen with the video, and I don't know why it didn't used to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you on your iPad or your iPhone?
I'm on my iPad, but last time I was on the phone, so...
Oh, so it did it on both.
Yeah, I wonder if it's an interaction with the headset.
Well, listeners, if you have any advice...
Just give us your tech advice.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions on how we can produce a better show, because 99% of the time I think it sounds pretty good over the phone.
Good to know that this talk has all been part of the episode.
Yep.
So anyway, Tremors.
So you were talking about what Deep Blue Sea has, or the overview of Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah. So you got people trying to make sharks to kind of grow their brains, get more brain cells, sort of stem cell type stuff going on, and they accidentally create super smart sharks. Mm-hmm. Samuel Jackson's in it. Thomas Jane's in it. I mean, he doesn't have as much clout as Samuel Jackson.
Nick Fury and the Punisher.
Oh yeah, good Marvel connections there. And Saffron Burris and LL Cool J, and the guy who gets his arm bitten off. Oh, what's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh well. So anyway, you got these folks kind of stuck underwater, and the sharks are trying to get to them. You think primarily to eat them, but really the sharks are just trying to escape because they want freedom.
That's what we all want.
Yeah. And then, in that light, I'm kind of like, hey, wait a minute. You got these super smart sharks stuck in a cage. Of course they want to get out. Maybe they're the protagonists. So anyways, well, what's Deep Blue Sea got going for it?
First of all, did you know there's a Deep Blue Sea 2 coming out?
It came out, but it went straight to Blu-ray.
Oh, it's got a rating of 3.2. Boo. Compared to the original's 5.8.
But in the theater, there's a movie coming out called The Meg, which is Jason Statham and fighting a megalodon shark. And I believe that's coming out this summer.
I feel like we have to see that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so going up against each other on IMDb ratings, Deep Blue Sea has a rating of 5.8, And Tremors has a rating of 7.2.
Quality-wise, 5.8 might be a little high, but enjoyment-wise, I would raise that score.
Yeah.
Score.
What kind of a score, if you were rating Deep Blue Sea right now, what kind of rating would you give it?
For my own personal enjoyment, I would give it I'd give that like a 7.5.
Really?
Because I have watched that movie so many times. I can't. There's just the quality score would be way lower. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who wants to see a good movie,
right,
by any means. But if someone said, "Hey, what's a fun movie to watch?" and I'm going to have some people over, I'd say watch Deep Blue Sea. You'll have a really good time.
Yeah. I saw Deep Blue Sea in theaters on my birthday when it came out.
Oh, that's excellent.
I think it came out on my birthday the one year. Let's see. What else can we compare? Deep Blue Sea has the better theme song.
I guess so, since it has one.
Deepest, bluest, my head moves like a shark's fin.
No, I think it's his hat. His hat is like a shark's fin.
That is even worse. What does that even mean?
I don't know. I have no idea. But it's the deepest and the bluest.
Well, I'll trust you because I tend to have the wrong words on lyrics anymore, or ever.
Well, that said, so we've got the theme song. Mm-hmm. Does it have good humor? Because we already acknowledged that Tremors has great humor.
Deep Blue Sea has one of the funniest moments of all time when Samuel L. Jackson is trying to
give a speech,
give his great inspirational speech, and the shark jumps out and eats him. That's true. That's one of the best moments in film history, I think.
It's definitely memorable.
When that happened the first time, nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw the shark jumped right out of the water and ate him.
Well, and the special effects are awful, but the timing of it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see here. So the chorus of this song is deepest, bluest. My hat is like a shark's fin.
My hat is like a shark's fin.
Man-made terror, hungry jaws of death. Y'all don't cross my depths. I'll pause your breath. I cause you to sink down 40,000 leagues, bleeding to death with no arms and short sleeves. My world's deep blue. Killers gotta eat too. Looking for human flesh to rip my teeth through. Other fish in the sea, but barracudas ain't equal to a half-human predator created by a needle. Jet black eyes, baby, they stare while you sleep. When your Titanic sinks, I'm the one you gonna meet.
Oh, God.
Hearing terrified screams, they surround my team. All you see is trails of blood. Even God won't intervene. I'm going to leave it there.
Oh, man. He probably worked so long on that.
Oh, definitely, because there's like 5 times as much still left to go if you were to read all the lyrics.
Oh, God. Man, I got tears coming out of my eyes.
So there's that.
Yep. So Deep Blue Sea has funniest moment and best song.
But Tremors has lots of humor throughout.
It's true.
It's more consistent, and the dialogue's actually good. The Deep Blue Sea's got a lot of drummed up drama that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
And
there's not a lot of wasted dialogue in Tremors. Like everything that they say is either a callback to something or is important to the plot in some way. There's not a lot of throwaway lines.
Yeah, well, and in terms of like adding unnecessary stuff about characters, the only thing Tremors really has thrown into it is that like Kevin Bacon is interested in women, and then
Right.
they meet one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like Deep Blue Sea's got like, oh yeah, Samuel Jackson's character survived on some sort of ice avalanche thing.
Yeah.
The Thomas Jane's character is like he used to be in jail or prison, and Saffron Burris's character is her. I don't know, someone in her family had Alzheimer's, so she's breaking the rules and doing all this DNA stuff she's not supposed to be doing.
Right.
And it's just like, look, they're kind of like before, like I was saying about not needing to add stuff. There are a bunch of people who are being eaten by sharks. That's enough.
Yeah.
And in Tremors, that's all you got. You got people who are being invaded by some sort of monsters, and that's all you need.
You know, here's something I just thought of Tremors is that the movie starts out, all the characters are spread out real wide. And as the movie goes on, all the characters are brought closer and closer together until at the end they're all together in the same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, and you got Ariana Richards, the little girl from Jurassic Park, is in this movie as a girl on a pogo stick.
I was going to say, is that the pogo stick girl? She's Lex from Jurassic Park?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Now you do. Well, what do you think? Okay, monsters wise, I think we can easily agree that aside from maybe Samuel Jackson, the cast has a lot more charisma and stuff in Tremors because they're not bogged down with a bunch of stupid stuff.
Right.
But how about monsters wise?
Monsters wise, Tremor wins easily because those are practical. Those I forget what they call them. Graboids. The graboids are they're all practical effects. Like those all exist as puppets, and they're disgusting. Whereas the sharks in Deep Blue Sea are all CGI. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, no, I know they had like for the scene where they're where they have the shark kind of pulled out of the water and they're putting a big needle through its skin. Mm-hmm. That's real, but I think a lot of it's CGI, and I agree 100%. Tremors, the monsters themselves are more effective. The use of them is more effective because first all you see is like the snake tongue thing that gets ripped off because it's stuck to the axle of their truck.
Right.
So again, it's kind of like I was saying about the monster in the ritual, where first you kind of see the effects of it. You've got these like bodies and limbs and things. Then you see a little bit of the monster. Then you finally see the whole thing.
Yeah.
You go, oh wow, that's what that is.
The slow reveal is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else? So we got better monsters, better characters, more consistent humor.
Yeah. Better
dialogue. No snappy theme. So, Deep Blue Sea gets a point for that.
Well, I don't know. Let's have our vote. I think that about covers.
Yeah.
Matt, which movie's better? Tremors or Deep Blue Sea?
In my opinion, obviously, I think at this point, it's pretty obvious. It's Tremors. Although I will say, if I was having a party and having people over to make fun of something and just hang out the way we do, I might go Deep Blue Sea first.
I would too, because Tremors is something that I want to watch, whereas Deep Blue Sea is something that can just be on. Yeah.
It like gives you and your friends fodder to socialize on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tremors, if someone was talking through Tremors, I'd be like, you're missing good stuff. Shut up.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Tremors is the winner. Deep Blue Sea falls to the wayside. But if we wanted to watch something bad, I probably would go with Deep Blue Sea. Because Tremors isn't a bad movie. Tremors is a good movie.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
All right, Matt. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week.
All right.
This was This Week in Film. So do you have anything you'd like to plug or suggest to the listening public?
No, I suppose I don't.
All right. I would say check out our website, but again, I haven't updated it in a while, so hopefully I'll get to do that. But you can check us out at thisweekinfilm.com or find us on the social stuff if you have anything you want to say to us. We're always listening. Oh, you know what? I want to say one thing. We had one person contact us about a film that he directed called Danger Boys. And we were trying to figure out a way to get him on the show, but I don't know if it's going to work out. But it's a documentary about Japanese punk rock bands. It was pretty cool to watch. Just a quick overview of it. But yeah, if you have something you want us to watch, reach out to us. But Danger Boys was about, you know what? I'll save it for another episode. But if you want to check out Danger Boys, it's on Amazon Prime Video if you want to see it.
What's the easiest way for people to reach out to you?
Twitter, Facebook, or just the website. The easiest probably Facebook.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But if that's the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
Bye now.